Are you stuck in the fear spiral with chronic pain or chronic illness? This is something that can happen when you're having a bad day or a bad week or maybe even a bad month. And it just seems like everything you try doesn't work. You're just feeling worse and it's never going to get any better. And you just kind of get stuck in this loop of thoughts that drags you down further and further. I've been there. I think we've all been there if we've been through a difficult chronic illness or pain journey. A lot of people try to get out of the fear spiral by trying to figure it out. Like, I've just got to figure it out. What's the next thing I need to do? What's the next treatment or program or protocol? And then you get caught in these looping thoughts of trying to figure it out, trying to make a decision, but nothing feels safe. Nothing feels like it's going to work. And that also drags you down. So in this video, I want to share just a few ways that you can break that cycle and start to pull yourself out of this fear spiral before you get kind of pulled down into this whirlpool. It's like, these are a few life preservers that maybe you could hold on to. And the most helpful thing is to have a coach who can like toss this preserver to you before you get too far down. Who can help you figure out, what are the things that really help you break the fear spiral and start to feel better. But I'm just going to give you a few examples today. If you don't know me, I'm Cedar of Cedar Sacred Well. I'm a certified somatic practitioner and a nervous system coach, and I'm particularly passionate about helping people with chronic illness and chronic pain to feel better. So the first thing to do, if you realize that you're in this fear spiral, and it can look either as a lot of anxiety, a lot of like, I've got to figure it out, a lot of urgency, or it can also look like kind of feeling paralyzed, like I can't make any actions, I can't do anything, or I'm going to feel worse, or sometimes a combination of the two. So once you realize that this is happening, the first thing is just to become aware of it and recognize that the fear itself is actually the biggest problem right now. You may have terrible symptoms. You may be in a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. You may have a lot of other, related struggles and worries that you're dealing with. But the biggest problem is actually the fear. And so if you can recognize that and turn your attention towards shifting out of the fear, everything else is going to start to feel easier. So how do we do that? The first thing I would suggest is narrowing your focus down to just this moment. Not any of the problems that you need to solve, not what's your life going to look like in a year if you can't figure this out. Just this moment, okay? And in this moment, there are many different things that you're experiencing. Your focus is going to keep getting pulled towards the things that are really awful, that are really painful and unpleasant, but that's not actually the only thing happening in this moment. There are lots of other things happening. There are lots of things you can see, you can hear, you can smell, you can sense, you can taste, you can think about. So just becoming a little more aware of what is present here in the moment, and then see if you can make this exact moment just a tiny little bit better. So we're not saying, you're going to feel like totally fine, but could you make something a tiny little bit better? Could you feel just a little bit better? Maybe you could fluff your pillows and just have like a softer pillow to lay on. Maybe you could get a nice soft blanket if you're needing to lay down. Maybe you could put on some music if you can tolerate that. Maybe you have a favorite candle or some essential oils if that's something that your body feels good with. Just doing any little tiny thing that you can to feel a teensy bit better. And another great thing you can do in these situations is to basically just lean on or borrow someone else's regulation and someone else's abilities by turning on a guided meditation, a guided visualization, a guided somatic practice. I have several here on my channel. I'm also on Insight Timer. If you just search for Cedar Sacred Well, I have a few really nice somatic guided practices that you could turn to that probably are going to make you feel just a tiny bit better. And again, that's what we're looking for. We're just looking for being able to shift your experience positively in the most like infinitesimal little itty bitty way. And if you've done that, if you've been able to do that, then recognizing, oh, I can make myself feel better. Maybe it's just a little bit better, but it is possible for me to feel better. And so just staying focused on that and then just trying to feel a little bit better. Okay, did that help? Maybe it didn't. Okay, I'll try something else. But keeping your focus really narrow into this present moment as much as possible. And your thoughts are going to want to pull you back into the future or the past. That's okay. Just come back into the present. That is the practice. All right, that's the first one. Narrow focus, bring it into the present moment, try to just feel a little bit better. Another option, and this is not going to work for everybody, so feel into, whether this resonates with you, is to zoom way out, actually, and to think about all of the hundreds of millions of people in the world who are dealing with issues just like this right now, who have pain, who have illness, who are maybe dying. There are lots of people literally starving to death in war zones right now. And I'm not saying that you should compare yourself to this, but just to recognize that you are not alone in your suffering. There is a lot of suffering in the world, and some of those people are actually living really valuable, important, wonderful lives. So recognizing that, if there are disabled people out there, chronically ill people out there, elderly, who are valuable, who are contributing to the world in some kind of important way, and maybe just being loved and loving the people in their lives, then couldn't you also maybe be valuable and be important and be worthy just exactly as you are right now? Maybe you don't actually need to change anything for that to be true. And it's often easier to see this when we look at other people. And this is why I really, really suggest starting to follow disabled activists, getting connected in with the disabled community, folks who are living with chronic illness or living with disability, who are really actually living great, wonderful lives, who are happy, who are joyful, who are able to make a positive contribution to the world, because it just shows that you don't have to be healthy, you don't have to be able-bodied for those things to be true. And so it can take a little bit of pressure off depending on what your fears are wrapped around, because a lot of our fears are driven by, if I'm not healthy, or if I'm not able to do X, Y, and Z, then I'm not lovable, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not valuable. That's often actually what's underneath a lot of this, more than the actual experience of being ill. So that's another thing you can try, zooming way out. Again, that's not for everyone, but I just want to throw it out there as a potential option. And then another piece is holding on to hope in the sense of being open to the possibility of something good happening. So maybe you don't believe that it's going to happen. Maybe your fears are kind of blinding you to what those possibilities might look like. But just being open and curious of, I wonder if maybe tomorrow I'll feel better. I wonder if maybe trying the somatic practice might make me feel just a little more at ease or a little more peaceful, even if these symptoms are still here. So holding the possibility that something good could happen, that you could feel a bit better, that you could find some improvement. And that just opens the door to a lot of other opportunities. What I'm going through here is actually parts of the 5 keys. So I've touched on the key of hope, the key of surrender, the key of care. Just dropping that in because it weaves into every single part of my work. So if you're curious to learn more about that, then just send me a message. So this key of hope of just the little, like just feeling the tiniest bit better, just having the hope of like the next little bitty thing, like maybe tomorrow I'll get to eat something delicious. Maybe I'll get to say hi to someone that I love. Maybe I'll see something cool like a bird out of the window. Maybe something will make me laugh. Really focusing in on those little hopes can help the bigger picture to just feel a little more manageable. And then lastly, taking action, taking any kind of action, honestly, is helpful for getting out of the fear spiral, that like paralyzed state. And I know it feels so hard because you feel like it needs to be the one right, true, only action that's going to fix everything. I'm sorry, but that's not actually how this works. That doesn't exist. There's only like better options and options that are not helpful, and then you learn that that's not helpful, right? So you try something, maybe it helps, great, then you keep going with it as long as it's helpful, and you try some other new things. Maybe you try something and it's not helpful. Maybe it even makes you feel a little bit worse. Then you stop doing it and you cross that off the list of things that are not going to help you. So you've still gained information, you still gained something either way. There's no moment at which you will have the perfect clarity of the future that tells you exactly what is going to help you the most, best, thing. There's only trying and adapting. Here we are again with the 5 keys, the key of adapt. You try, you assess what that did. You change direction a little bit, you try that. You assess it again, you change direction a little bit, you assess it again. And you just keep doing that until you find your way towards feeling better, or maybe even towards recovery. So taking a little bit of pressure off the decisions, because I know there are so many decisions to make and it feels like you've got to have all the answers. But knowing that you can't have all the answers, you're going to make mistakes. There is no one perfect fix out there that you're going to find. It's just a series of choices and adjustments and choices and adjustments and choices and adjustments. And that's how anyone ever recovers. It's not like you can just have a knee surgery and then your knee is fine now. Like that's what we always want it to be. But with chronic illness, that's just not the story. I mean, sometimes people do find treatments that make a big difference, that help a lot, and that could absolutely happen. But that's not the be all and end all. Most people find things that help a little bit, and then something helps a little bit more, and then something helps a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then the next thing you know, there you are, you're recovered. So just trusting that you can make a choice, and then you can adjust. You can make a choice, and then you can adjust. And that you have the strength to see that through. You've already come this far. You can keep going. You've come this far, you can keep going. And that there are things that are going to help you. And that if you just start making a choice and trying it and adjusting and trying and adjusting, you will find those things. And then you'll be able to put them on the list of stuff that did help. And then keep going, okay? So those are just a few of the possible life preservers that if I were coaching you, I would present depending on what was going on with you. And that you can start trying on your own and testing these out. Maybe if you don't have a coach, you can recruit someone that you're close to, your partner or your family, to say, hey, if you see me kind of spiraling in fear, maybe you could remind me to do a somatic practice or to just focus on the moment or whatever it is that helps you. So I hope that's helpful. The fear spiral it's a stage that we all go through. There's nothing wrong with you. It's perfectly natural. But you do need to start taking some actions to shift out of that, or it will just keep spiraling you around. And it's not a productive or a helpful place to be. So grab one of these life preservers, pull yourself out. When you get dragged in again, just do it again, and you'll get better and better at it. You'll get better and better at noticing it when it starts to happen. And you'll find things that help you, and you will make progress. All right, wishing you the best. Take care.